Hello, third grade students, and welcome to a new week of science learning. As always, if at any point you need to take a break, go ahead and hit pause and come back when you're ready. Or if you want to go back and look at something that maybe I went through too quickly, feel free to pause, rewind, and watch it again. Let's get started. Now, we are going to today be writing an explanation of the snail survivals. You're going to be incorporating ideas from the text that you read and from all of the different investigations that we have made in order to explain the survival of the grove snails. Remember, we are trying to help the engineering firm figure out what is happening with the grove snail population. Let's look at the graphs again and compare the snails with yellow shells to the snails with banded shells. Remember, we're looking and differentiating between the survival of the yellow-shelled snails and the snails with banded shells. Here's the graph again. We can see that the snails with yellow shells are less likely to survive in their environment than the snails with banded shells. Why is that? What do we know about what makes organisms less likely to survive that could help us understand why the snails with yellow shells aren't surviving as well? I suggest that you pause the video right now, maybe get a pencil and paper and jot down some of your thoughts because these are going to be really helpful for your assignment later. So think, what do we know about organisms that make them less likely to survive? And this will help us understand maybe why the snails with yellow shells aren't surviving as well. For this week, you're going to get a couple of cards that include different data about the food, water, and predators in the grove snails environment. So this is going to be very similar to that couple of weeks ago when you studied the different animals and organisms and you pretended that they could be in different environments and you had to determine whether their needs were going to be likely met or unlikely met or not at all. But this time we are focusing specifically on the grove snails. These cards will give us more data about the environment where the grove snails live, but they don't say if it's easy or hard for the snails with yellow shells to meet each of their needs in their environment. To figure that out, you will use the information on the cards and what you already know about what organisms need to survive. Later on your own, you will work with the predator data card and shell data card. Those cards will be as a resource on your teams. For right now, though, we're going to review the directions and we're going to focus on the food data and the water data card. So you're going to read these cards and you're going to look at the table and you're going to have to create an inference. How easy do you think it is for snails with yellow shells to meet this need in their environment? You're going to focus on their food needs and whether it's easy, hard, or not sure for them to meet their food need. And then we're going to look at water and try and figure out if it's easy, hard, or you're not sure whether the snails can get that need. And then on your own, you're going to think about the predators, whether they're able to avoid their predators easily, or if it's hard, or you're not sure at all. We're going to use a food data card and water card to make inferences. Let's read the food data. Grove snails eat mostly dead or dying plants. There are many dead and dying plants in the study area. There is enough food in this environment for the snail population. What does the food data card say about the snail's food needs? Go ahead and pause, jot down some ideas, or have a conversation with someone near you. Now, let's read the water data. The study area gets a lot of rain. As long as the area gets enough rain every year, there is enough water for the snail population. We have some ideas about what this might mean. We need some more information about whether their water needs can be met. Let's look more closely. Amount of rain the study area usually gets each year, 43.7 inches. Amount of rain the study area got this year, 49 inches. Seems like it was a really good year for the snails that year in regards to their water needs. So what does the water data card say about the snail's water needs? Go ahead, pause, jot down some of your thinking, or have a conversation with someone near you. For the needs under food and water, the snails with yellow shells will easily meet their needs based on the data cards. It seems like there is enough food for them to eat, and it seems that generally there is enough water for them to survive. So you gotta make sure that you're gonna put all this information in your own assignment through Teams. Now, let's look into the predator data. A bird called the song thrush is a predator of grove snails. Song thrushes live in this environment. Cracked snail shells have also been found in this environment. Let's take a look. Next, we will watch a video of a song thrush eating a snail. Observe the song thrush just like scientists would. The engineering firm sent us this video. Scientists often get information about how organisms survive in their environment by observing videos of organisms in the wild, which they film by using video cameras placed in the environment. Here we go. If you want to see the video again, feel free to pause, rewind, and watch it again. Now, how did the song thrush eat the grove snail? Go ahead and pause, jot down some of your thinking, or have a conversation with someone near you. Now, let's read the shell data card. This data shows the broken snail shells found by a rock near the study area. Let's look at the data more closely, specifically at the table. Color of shells and number of cracked shells. Banded shells, 5. Yellow shells, 20. What do you think these numbers mean? What do you think the 5 and the 20 mean in regards to the snail's abilities to avoid predators? Based on the video, the predator data card and the shell data card make an inference about the snails avoiding predators. Think and record your ideas about why the snails with yellow shells are not surviving well. Scientists often write explanations about how things work or why things happen. They write explanations for the scientific community as well as for others who are not scientists, such as students. In this way, many people can learn from scientists' investigations and thinking. These are the guidelines of a scientific explanation that will help us make sure our explanation communicate ideas clearly. We will focus on using these 3 guidelines in our writing task. In our case, we will explain why the snails with yellow shells are less likely to survive than the snails with the banded shells. So let's look specifically at the 3 guidelines. So what is a scientific explanation? 1, it answers a question about how or why something happens. So in this case, we're trying to figure out why do snails with yellow shells, why are they less likely to survive than the snails with banded shells? 2, it describes things that are not easy to observe. One reason scientists write explanation is to help people understand what they may not be able to observe. It is not easy to observe what is happening to the growth snail population over time. One person can observe every snail all day long for 10 years. 3, it is based on ideas you have learned from investigations and texts. We have been learning what makes organisms more likely to survive or less likely to survive by investigating and reading. And we're going to use all that knowledge today while writing our scientific explanation. In science, explanations are always based on evidence. Our key concepts are also based on evidence. How do we get evidence for our key concepts? You've been doing this all this quarter. You've been reading, you've been paying attention to these lessons, you've been conducting your own investigations with different organisms and different environments. You're ready. Here we go. Let's get ready to write our scientific explanation. Scientific explanation. We will work together to write this explanation that answers this question. What's the question? Why are the snails with yellow shells less likely to survive than the snails with banded shells? Remember, that has been our question focus the entire time. And today, we're going to answer it. We want to explain why the snails with yellow shells are less likely to survive than the snails with banded shells. So let's begin our response to the engineering firm like this. The snails with yellow shells are less likely to survive because... How could we complete this sentence? What could we say to inform the engineering firm why we believe that the snails with yellow shells are less likely to survive? Take a moment and jot down some of your ideas. What should we add to complete the explanation? Should we talk about their water needs? Should we talk about the environment? Should we talk about the predators? Should we talk about their color? Remember, whatever your explanation is, it needs to do these 3 things. It needs to answer the question. It needs to describe the things that are not easy to observe. And it needs to be based on ideas you have learned from investigations and texts. By the way, that video that we watched of the sung thrush, that is also considered an investigation or a text. It's information that you are learning in order to apply to your scientific explanation. Remember, an explanation is a description of how something works or why something happens. Now, I want to talk really quickly to you about biomimicry. Look at the diagram and think about what else we've learned about growth snails. Go ahead and hit pause and take a look at the image. What new ideas do you have about how you could design something that could help an organism avoid predators? Biomimicry is pretty much just an engineering situation in which you look at the natural world around you and use that information to create ideas in science. So, do you have any ideas of a design that could be used to avoid predators for an organism? If you do, sketch it, write it, take a picture, record yourself, and send it to your teacher to let us know what your ideas are. This is the end of the lesson. I hope you learned a lot today, and we are really excited to look at your work this week. Until next week.